Hey AfterBuzzers, welcome back to another episode of Do You Ship? Who will be tonight's best TV couple, Ross and Rachel or Cece and Schmidt? We're about to find out, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I always love this song.
I love this. I feel like this is it makes me want to
Perfect
do like
opening.
Broadway. Yeah. We're so excited. Hey guys, what is up? Thank you so much for waiting for us. This is another episode of Do You Ship?
Yes.
I'm your host, Karla Beltran, and I'm joined by my lovely ladies, Candice Cruz and Nasta. Candice will be
up?
fighting for Ross and Rachel tonight.
Yes!
And Allie will be fighting for Cece and Schmidt.
Hashtag Schmeecy. Okay?
That just sounds nasty.
No, it doesn't. Schmeecy is cute. All right, you know what? I have so many facts that are going to go against. I love Ross and Rachel.
fine.
Don't get
It's
me
fine.
wrong. For all of the ship people out there, I do love Ross and
I
Rachel.
mean,
but
Ross and Rachel are
obviously-
the most strong TV couple that I've ever.
But yet they've never been married. They've never been together and have a child out of wedlock.
Okay, well, the child out of wedlock thing, it is
Okay,
2018,
ladies.
just saying.
Let's save
But-
it for the time of the battle.
All right, let's go. I'm
Well,
ready.
guys, if it's your first time tuning in, Do You Ship is the TV show where your favorite TV couples fight against each other to
We're
see who's
fighting.
going to be the best TV couple. So we're so excited. Tonight we have 3 different categories that will be going. You guys will have to argue for. It'll be longevity, trust, and compassion. So you guys will have about 3 minutes to argue and let me know who is the best couple and why. I'm tonight's judge, and hopefully the people in the chat will help me out on Twitter. So if you're tuned in, please tune in the chat. Let me know what you guys think about their arguments, and if you have extra comments, please let us know. So let's start with trust.
Trust. All right.
Oh, we're doing trust. All right, let's do this.
So basically,
Are
I'll
we
start it
starting
off.
now?
I guess
Let's
I'm
go.
starting off.
Let's do
So
this.
basically, Cece and Schmidt have gone through, maybe the beginning of their relationship, they kind of had to do things behind each other's backs, or not each other's backs, but behind their friends' backs, because they wanted to make sure that no one would they didn't want anybody to know yet. And so that kind of led to some trust issues because Schmidt kind of has never been the ladies' man per se. So, he had to deal with these dual relationships, but that led them only to success because Cece and Schmidt are probably one of the strongest couples on New Girl.
I don't deny that
Yeah.
at all. No, I think that they are the strongest couple on New Girl. However, when it comes down to trust, I think for Ross and Rachel, I can talk about them all day long. But I feel like throughout the entire series of the 10 seasons, and even looking previously when we go back in time during their high school years, they ultimately always had that level of friendship. And I think with friendship, one of the main key elements of friendship is trust. And I think even with the ups and downs of their relationship, whether they were together, whether they were on a break, whatever it may be, I think that they've always overcome each other with trust, because regardless of where they were at or who they were with at that time, they always went to one another to confide in and to be there for each other. And even in the last season, in one of the last episodes, she even says, I can't say goodbye to you because you are the most important person out of everyone. And I think that the groundwork right there is trust, and they always trusted that they would end up together, and they didn't know how, but they always knew that that was going to happen. And even being parents together and being parents to Emma, I think that takes a huge level of trust. And even with her living with Joey, I think there's just so many different situations and examples of where they had to have trust in order to overcome their situations and their scenarios that they had.
Yeah, I mean, trust is one of those things where it's a foundation of any relationship, and you kind of see that, and it's hard to fight whether one's stronger than the other because it's always going to be there. And I think with Cece and Schmidt, they honestly have had their ups and their downs, and everybody goes through trust issues. But for them, I feel like they had one small hiccup when this was not a good sign of trust, but they were able to use that as something to help them go forward.
Yeah.
And they obviously were married, and they trusted that they were going to find each other in the end, because Schmidt was not going to let anybody kind of get in his way. He even ended a marriage. She was about to get married. He walks in and ends the marriage, and he has done so many things to kind of prove to Cece, and that's the thing, is he's had to prove himself to her. So that's even a more sign of trust, because she's had to really build that with them, and maybe they didn't have that from the start, but they really built that as the relationship has grown.
Wow, that's so much information. Well, we have a couple of people in the chat. And Kimberly Mayfield definitely does not like Ross, but she does think Cece and Schmidt are much better. Tiffany Ferguson thinks that, also agrees with Kimberly, that Ross is the worst because he cheated on her, he drew on her face.
Schmidt has fought for Cece in every way, shape, or form.
And Tiffany Ferguson also votes for Cece and Schmidt.
Yeah, it's one of those things too where Cece and Schmidt, Schmidt has literally done so many things to prove to Cece that he is the man for her. And I mean, he freaking made her call off a wedding and did this whole entire scheme just to make sure he loved her. He freaking had his wedding with her. He went to go get her mom to come to the wedding, and he celebrated their wedding on a plane over FaceTime.
Okay, so I can't argue with that one on that one, but I will say that Ross has proved himself through and through and through, even with like the small details of like little gifts. So if we're going to that,
yeah, sorry,
sorry guys, but I think as far as trust goes, from what I could hear from both relationships, I feel like one of them didn't have like. It was a weird relationship because I don't know that I would trust somebody who starts like a hate group against me personally.
All right, fine.
But I think for this
one,
one,
trying to overshadow that one, but
for this one, I think we're going to go with Cece and Schmidt.
I'll
give you that one.
And guys, I gotta let you know, whoever's watching this, I do love Ross and Rachel, so I'm not fighting because I don't like them. I'm just fighting because this is my couple, and obviously I love Schmidt and Cece. I love them both the same, but I don't want anybody to get any hard feelings here. We're just battling it out. They're two amazing couples. What can you say?
This is one of the hardest episodes I think that we've had.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
yeah,
they're
because
both great.
Also, we're talking about someone that's married, and he freaking did the baby announcement, and Schmidt has done so many different things to prove to Cece that he's the man for her.
Yeah.
So.
Well, moving on to the next round, we're going to do compassion.
Okay.
In the next round.
Oh.
So.
Am I starting this one?
Yeah, you can start.
Sure.
Let's go for it.
Compassion. I mean, I don't know where else I could go with this one because I feel like I said a lot of what I would have said with the trust issue is that compassion, Ross has always loved Rachel. He has always, like, if we're talking about Schmidt pining for Cece, Ross has pined for Rachel since 9th grade. Like, let's be real here. There's so much compassion that he has given up for her. Like, for example, the prom episode where her prom date didn't show up and he was going to get in a tux and go and pine after her.
Oh, that's such
go.
terrible. That's so sad.
I know, it was so sad, but he did
so
that
happy.
for her. And then, like, he's left multiple people. I mean, he left Emily at the altar for Rachel. I know that the whole scenario took a little bit of time. He had a baby with Rachel. He has been there for every single element of her life and her coming of age from beginning until now, and he's always been there for her. Yes, he has a little bit of an ego that he's trying to figure out, but I think that comes from insecurity, and I think that the two of them balance each other out. And I think that Rachel has always fought for them, especially even like the time that she went to the airport and showed up with the flowers when he came back with Julie, and then even with him going to the airport and fighting for her to stay when she was going to go to Paris. Like, there's so many different specific examples that you could use when both of them are showing compassion for one another.
One thing is, I get they definitely have showed compassion towards each other by showing up and being there for one another, but they're never on the same page. And I think that's kind of where
that's just life, though. I think that's scenarios
but
and where
also the
they're at in
compassion
life.
for like the other side. You know, whenever they show up and it's never the right timing, that should be compassion to know that that person that you once loved should always be there for you.
And they always have been. They have always been friends, and they never ended their friendship.
They never ended their friendship.
When they were broken up, they were still friends. So I think that's compassion enough that they still stayed in each other's life.
I guess, and they did have compassion towards, you know, even though one of them loved each other at the same time, they were able to kind of keep it close. But I don't know. When I'm talking compassion with Cece and Schmidt, it's kind of undeniable. And we have Schmidt found out that Cece was having a baby before she even found out, and he freaking welcomed her home with, like, the whole living room was filled with flowers. Cece didn't know what to do with her job and she didn't know where to go, so he built her their own in-home office and he kind of pushed her to have a career. And he kind of has always put Cece first. Yes, when he was a little bit younger in the beginning of the show, he did make some mistakes, but he's always proved to Cece that he was going to be there. Like I mentioned before with the FaceTiming of the wedding. I mean, what other person? Oh, and then also because they weren't able to have Schmidt at the wedding, he had a FaceTime, they had an in-home wedding at their house in the loft. So it's just crazy because there's time after time where Schmidt and Cece have really been there for one another and showed
Have they been there for one another
action.
from the beginning, or is
Well,
it?
yeah, it was one of those relationships
I
where
mean,
he
it's already
always
one longevity.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, they've been there from the get-go. They obviously met through Jess, and, you know, Cece's always been kind of the hot girl, the model, the one that was out of Schmidt's league, but he somehow found his way in there, and he won Cece, and Schmee is heavy, and they've got a baby.
that's a horrible name.
And they actually live
Schmeece.
together.
It's a horrible name.
This is a really hard round because I feel like both couples have had so much compassion for each other, but I'm gonna base it off just different examples that were given, and I feel like one of the couples gave me more examples than the other, so I'm gonna go with Ross and Rachel. On this one.
That makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. How in my examples, it doesn't.
Because I mean, he flew to Paris. Like, it's just all the other things that he
Schmidt
did.
literally tried to get Cece's mother to come to the wedding because he thought he was going to be there. Goes on a plane, gets stuck on the plane, and then still proceeds to marry her through FaceTime. Like, he was trying to do something good. He breaks up a wedding.
You
I'm
lost,
not,
honey.
Yeah,
you
you
lost.
I don't
You
understand
lost.
this decision, guys. This makes no
Well,
sense to
you're
me.
fine.
I'm just basing it off what you guys told me because
Thank you very much.
I'm trying to make it as fair as possible because I've seen New Girl, so I know Cece and Schmidt, but I'm the odd one out who's actually never seen Friends. So I'm just hearing.
You might not want to say that.
So I'm just listening to what you're telling me. So yeah.
Okay.
I can't get over this.
You've offended Candice.
Sincerely. But it's fine.
Well,
It's fine.
we'll
All
get to
right.
the next round,
All right, let's do it.
which is longevity.
Dun, dun, dun.
I think
Oh, yeah, we start with trust,
both
just
of
like
these I think both of these couples have been together for a very long time. So you guys have to try and convince me why, like, which one has been
I even have a
like
clip.
the strongest, so on and so forth. So
I mean,
Take it away.
it's kind of hard to really deny that Schmidt and Cece don't have the longest, strongest relationship. Because I'm gonna kind of put the strength of their relationship into this longevity. I mean, this has been a show that's been on for 7 seasons. They're now married. They have a child. They live together. They actually moved out of the loft. You know, there's really no denying that they've been together the longest. And obviously, they're the ones that. I mean, and that's what's kind of hard about comparing different TV shows with length. But since they met, Schmidt knew he wanted her, and he did whatever he had to do to get her. And so now that they've dated, they broke up, they dated again. But then at the end of the day, they were endgame, and they are endgame, and they live together outside of the loft. And there's no other way to explain it besides that they live together, they're married, and have a child.
Well, besides the marriage part, Ross and Rachel have the same thing. Like, they even have longer of a relationship, and not talking like seasons wise, but as in like years wise. Again, with the high school thing, he has always loved her, and yes, they've had their ups and downs. I will say that. Like, I'm not going to deny that Ross and Rachel had a lot of breakups and a lot of, are we on a break, are we together? But I do think that every time that they were together, there was so much passion and like fire within their relationship, and also that they continue to stay friends throughout the entire time, and they did end up having a baby together. They did end up together at the very end, so they are endgame.
But what kills me is that they spent more than half of the series
But
apart.
why is it that they are the most iconic TV couple coming from the 1990s? Even if that statement is true, they still were together so many different times throughout the season, and so many people always thought that we're together.
But they're basically like Marissa and Ryan from the OC. Even though they were kind of together and not together the entire amount of the series, they never had a lasting relationship that lasted more than 2 episodes.
But no one recognized that they were apart longer than they were together. Everyone thinks that they've always been together. And I just want to prove a clip, because they are endgame, and it is right here for you.
Ross is like broody, like
I know.
nice. He's like me.
Oh no.
Oh, we're having
a pause.
All right,
Pause
well,
for commercial.
that just proves that I win, right?
No, not at all. Here we go.
Ross, hi. It's me. I just got back on the plane, and I just feel awful. That is so not how I wanted things to end with us. It's just that I wasn't expecting to see you, and then all of a sudden you're there and saying these things, and now I'm just sitting here and thinking of all the stuff I should have said and I didn't. I mean, I didn't even get to tell you that I love you too.
I did just get
Because
goosebumps.
of course
Aww.
I love you. I love you. I love you. What am I doing? I love you.
But this still doesn't
No,
prove
wait,
longevity.
just watch.
Oh my God.
They're in game, okay?
Excuse me. Please sit down. No,
It's the last episode. This is longevity.
to get off the plane, okay? I need to just tell someone that I love them.
Miss, I can't let you off the plane.
Let her off the plane.
I am afraid you are going to have to take your seat.
Oh, please, miss, you don't understand.
Try to understand.
Oh, come on, miss, isn't there any way that you can just let me off the...
No, no.
Aww.
Did she get off the plane? Did
She got off the plane.
I got off the plane.
She got off the plane.
But this isn't even fair. But like,
I told you, it's a not fair fight. This is
but
everything.
it is because Cece and Schmidt.
Cece and Schmidt are great, but Ross and Rachel are like everything.
He has
The
done-
longevity right here in this clip is because it's the last episode. They made it through 10 seasons,
Yeah.
ended up together, have a baby, and they're not going to go on a break again.
But you don't know that.
I do know that.
I know for a fact that Cece and Schmidt have
I
a
do
child
know.
together, live together. He created a home and a job and a life for
They
her.
left together with a child. I think we're okay.
Don't make jokes now.
I don't know. I don't like this longevity thing. We gotta get rid of it. It doesn't make
I do
sense.
too. But either way, because I don't think it's a fair fight on certain ends, but like, I mean, you can't deny this clip.
Yeah.
You can't deny it, guys. Like, I just got chills and cried watching it again, and I've watched this episode so many different times. Mm-hmm. It's like, but there you go. So, Ross and Rachel. The end. I love you, Allie.
This is definitely a tough episode, I have to say, because they're both great TV couples, and I think for a lot of us, they're like a lot of our favorite TV couples. But I'm gonna base it off the facts of what I know and what you guys told me. So
nervous.
I've seen New Girl, and I know that Cece and Schmidt definitely did not meet during high school. So I know that the longevity of their relationship has been probably less than Ross and
But Ross and Rachel didn't meet until
you
their
guys.
mid-20s.
But
They didn't re-meet until their mid-20s. She
They
had no
didn't-
interest
they
in Ross.
re-met,
She
but-
didn't even look at Ross.
we
She did not look at him that way. She had other boyfriends. She did not even look at Ross.
But Cece also
Tap out.
had other boyfriends, even during different seasons of New Girl. I know that Cece dated other people, and Schmidt dated other people, and he was almost getting married with somebody else.
No, she
So-
was.
Oh yeah, she was almost getting married with somebody else.
But
So
he stopped it from happening.
We know.
He stopped it, but the relationship, they weren't together during that time. So for me, tonight's winner, as you guys probably could already tell who it is, will definitely be Ross and Rachel.
I tried, Team Schmeezy. I
And
I'm so happy right now.
I do have to say that I love Cece and Schmidt. They're like one of my favorite
I love
couples
them
besides
too.
Jess and like Nick and Jess. I
Oh,
also
Nick
love
and Jess,
Nick and
game
Jess.
over.
They're amazing. But I just think as far as like basing it off the categories that we chose, which we definitely have to change, I think that's why they win.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Team Schmeezy, I'm sorry. I tried.
Well,
Change your
guys,
name.
Thank you so much for tuning in.
teasing.
Stay tuned for next week's episode. And I'm your host, Karla Beltran. You can follow me on Instagram at Karla Beltran with an R at the... Oh, no, that's my Twitter. My Instagram, it's actually I am Karla Beltran. And don't forget to follow AfterBuzz TV on all social media networks at AfterBuzz TV. And where can they find you guys?
What's up, guys? I'm Candice Cruz. Thank you so much for watching. Go, Ross and Rachel! And you can find me on all my social media at Candice R. Cruz.
Hey guys, Allie Nasta here. Find me on Twitter at Allie Nasta and on Instagram at Allie Girl. And for all you New Girl fans, the new season starts up next week, and I can't wait. It's gonna be so much
excited.
fun.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
can't
see you
wait
guys
either.
next week.
Well,
Bye.
thank you guys. Ciao.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.